Okay guys, just want to give you a quick introduction to the service inquiry on the multi-zone outdoor units. It's accessible depending on the chassis. If it's a single fan chassis, it's accessible through the top. The board will be face up, or at least the display will be face up. On two fan chassis, the quarter panel is removed, and as you can see, it's facing you here in the top section of that control compartment. So the first thing that you'll notice when you open it up is the 2-digit display, and that is going to read typically one of three things. If the unit is off, it's going to read 00, as you can see now. If there's an active fault code, you'll see that fault code displayed there, or you're going to see a numeric value, typically fluctuates or fluctuating by a few numbers. That indicates the compressor frequency. If the unit is operating, there are no fault codes active, then we're going to see that number fluctuating, and it's just indicating sort of the speed of the compressor. So we're going to think of this, whether it says 00, whether it has a fault code, or whether it's displaying the frequency of the compressor, sort of as home, and then we can navigate to any one of the parameters or values inside of the service inquiry simply by pressing this button a number of times equal to the parameter value that we're interested in. So if we wanted to go to indoor unit D capacity, which is 5, we would go to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll wait, and then you can see it flips over and gives us the capacity of that unit. I can then continue on. I can go to 12, indoor unit E capacity, 0, we don't have an indoor unit E. If I wait long enough, there is no back button. It will eventually kick back to what, again, we're going to refer to as sort of home. So some of the values in here that are useful, there's a lot of values, some are more useful than others, but the first value, number of indoor units connected, 4, we like to confirm that that's what we actually have. Value 2 is the operating mode that the outdoor unit is currently set to. We then get the capacities of our indoor equipment, A, B, C, and D. 8 through 12 are then the calls from that equipment. So do we have calls on A, B, C, or D? Currently you can see that we do not. 14 is the target frequency for the compressor based on all of the capacity demand, and 15 is the actual frequency of the compressor after any limits. Typically those two values should match. There shouldn't be any limits. If the actual value of the compressor is less than the target, that indicates that for some reason the unit has determined it needs to run in a reduced capacity mode. Typically that has to do with refrigerant or airflow, maybe a sensor that's reading incorrectly. 7, we can then go down starting about 17 and look at all of the sensor values within the system. So evaporator outlet temperature of circuit A, circuit B, circuit C, D, and E. Return air or room temperature of A, B, C, and D. Evaporator temperature of circuits A, B, C, and D. We can then go to the outdoor sensors, which are outdoor ambient temperature is 33, 32, compressor pipe temperature, etc. So you can see all the values. If you have a short, if you have one open, if one is reading incorrectly, you can check those all with just a matter of button presses here. You can also see the EXV angle opens for each, so if you want to see a unit calling and then the corresponding response from the EXV for that circuit, you could see it there. And then one of the big ones, 45, is the last fault in memory, so we can see there is none here. However, a lot of times service calls are generated, fault or some sort of error pops up on the indoor unit, service call is generated, you come out, by the time you get out there, the condition has cleared itself, it's back to operating. If you wanted to know what that fault was, you could go to parameter number 45 and get that stored fault code. There's only one stored fault code, the most recent one, so just be aware of that. So that's just a little bit of an introduction into the multi-zone service inquiry. It gives you some great insight into the system, which units are calling, which units are receiving refrigerant, which EXVs are opening and closing, has the unit derated for some perceived issue. All that stuff can be ascertained pretty quickly through the service inquiry, so we like it a lot, and that's sort of an introduction to how we use it to help guys. So hopefully that's helpful for you as well.